Hello Star Wars fans, collectors, and YouTubers. Welcome to the Hyperspace Vault. In today's video we're going to do something a little different. Today we're going to talk about some speculation on whether or not Hasbro is going to produce 40th anniversary figures for The Empire Strikes Back. As you know, 2020 coming up next year will mark the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back. I always thought, given the success of the 40th anniversary Star Wars line, the 6-inch figures with the vintage cards on them from the Black Series, that it was going to be a no-brainer that Hasbro would produce Empire Strikes Back figures in the same way coming up next year. But now I'm not so sure, because it seems like Hasbro has a lot of stuff going on, a lot of different lines, and I'm just not sure if there's enough room for 40th anniversary Empire Strikes Back figures. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that they have this, if they're going to be making these, I'm sure it's well past the planning stage now. And hopefully we'll see an announcement, maybe as early as Star Wars Celebration in April. And if not, maybe later at like San Diego Comic-Con. Maybe they'll have an announcement on if they're going to do these or not. So we have Darth Vader here and Rebel Hoth Soldier as two examples from the vintage collection of what a 40th anniversary Black Series 6-inch figure may look like, or at least how they would be packaged. So what would be some of the differences between the Star Wars Black Series 6-inch figures and the Empire Strikes Back 6-inch figures? Well, the card, as you can see here, has the Empire Strikes Back logo. There is a different photograph that was used in the Empire Strikes Back cards, and the Empire Strikes Back cards had a single racetrack around on the edge there, whereas the original Star Wars cards had a double racetrack. So if Hasbro decided to do a 40th anniversary line for the Empire Strikes Back, what would we see? Now, the Star Wars 40th anniversary figures, they released the first 12 original figures that was released for Star Wars, including this legacy pack, which replicated the original display stand, only in larger 6-inch form for the figures. And they could do this same thing with Empire Strikes Back. There was a display set for Empire Strikes Back, which I think was basically used the same thing as the Star Wars one, but it also included 6 figures. So we could see something like that, just a one-off thing that includes the 6 figures, or we could see an individual line of figures for the Empire Strikes Back, that's what I would really like to see. Now, the first wave of original vintage Empire Strikes Back figures, there was 20 figures in that first wave that was released in 1980 for the movie. Now, in the 40th anniversary Black Series line, I think out of the 12, 2 were new figures to the 6-inch line, and the rest of them were just re-releases or repacks of existing figures. And if they do an Empire Strikes Back 40th anniversary line, it would basically follow the same way. A lot of the figures have already been released, and there would be a few new ones to the line. So let's go through the first wave of 20 figures. We'll go through this pretty quick, and that way we can get an idea of what a 40th anniversary Empire Strikes Back line might look like. First up, we have Bespin Luke Skywalker. That looks really cool. It'd be in Luke in his Bespin fatigues. I think that would be a really cool figure, and that has already been released before, so that would give them a chance to re-release this if it doesn't come out in the archive line. Next up, we have Princess Leia in Bespin gown, and this figure has not been released in Black Series. So this would look really cool, I think, as a Black Series 40th anniversary figure. And next up we have Han Solo in Hoth outfit. Now, we've had a couple of different Hans in the Hoth outfit. There was an original release of one, and then more recently there was a Comic-Con exclusive set with Han with an updated Han Solo and Hoth. So that would look really good on the vintage card. Next up we have Bosk, and we recently got Bosk back in the archive line, so it would be pretty easy to see him on being released again on a vintage card. And next up is IG-88, same way with him, recently released in the archive line. And after that is Rebel Soldier. This is Rebel Soldier Hoth. There is not a Rebel Soldier Hoth in the Black Series line, so that would be a new figure for the Black Series line. Next up is FX-7 Droid, Medic Droid. There's no Black Series figure of this Medic Droid, so that would be a new one for the Black Series line. And I think the Black Series line needs a lot more droids anyway. Okay, next up we have the Imperial Snowtrooper. This figure's already been released in the Black Series line, and that would make a really cool 6-inch figure on that vintage card. I mean, the image on that looks really cool. Okay, next up we have Lando Calrissian. This is the blue Lando that we already have released in the Black Series line, so that would be a re-release.
Yeah, they could do a better face sculpt for it.
Yeah, they could update it and...
Yeah, using the new print photo deco technology.
And next up we have Bespin Security Guard. That would be a new figure for the Black Series line, and that would be pretty cool to go with Lando.
Yeah, especially since we haven't gotten that. Like Dave said, it would be a new figure in the Black Series line.
And next up we have Yoda. So that would be really cool. I mean, that image on that vintage card looks really cool. And Yoda's being re-released in the archive line, so this would be another re-release for if they do an Empire Strikes Back 40th anniversary line.
Yeah, especially because the last Yoda, the first one, the cloak on it, it's bad.
Okay, next up we have Leia and Hoth outfit, and that was recently released in the Black Series line last year in 2018, so that's a relatively new figure, and they could re-release this in the vintage card.
Yeah.
Next up we have Rebel Commander, and this is a Hoth Commander in the Hoth outfit. That is not in the Black Series line, so this would be a new figure they release.
Yeah, that would be cool, just seeing a Rebel Hoth Commander right beside a Rebel Soldier from Hoth.
And next up we have AT-AT Driver. This has already been produced in the 6-inch line Black Series figure, so this would be a repack, and that would be really cool on a vintage card.
Yeah, but I think that when they do the repack, they could add a few more accessories, since the AT-AT Driver that originally came out only had one accessory, and that was the E11 blaster.
Okay, next up we have the 2-1B Medic Droid. That would be a new figure for the Black Series line, and that would be really cool. That is like the iconic Medic Droid from Empire Strikes Back, so at Hoth base, so that would be really cool to get that.
Yeah, and especially like the microphone for a mouth, which is actually what they used.
Okay, next up we have Imperial Commander. This would make a really cool one, because this, basically, they could just rename it General Veers, because that's who is pictured on the card. So that would be really cool to see General Veers on a vintage card. And, you know, they could include his accessories from the Black Series figure, the battle, or the Imperial armor, and the helmet, and with the goggles and everything. So that would make a really, really cool figure.
Yeah, and a kind of like add-on that they could do to this figure. If they make a 40th anniversary line, they could make the goggles go down to his eyes.
Okay, next up we have an Ugnaught, and that would be really cool, because obviously there's never been a Black Series figure of an Ugnaught.
Yeah.
So that would be really cool to see a little Ugnaught to go with. I don't know what you display it with. Maybe a Jawa or something, because he's short. Yeah,
you could add accessories. You don't really have accessories for this figure, but since he was working in kind of like the droid shop where they take apart droids, I would put in like probably like a tool in there, like maybe like a Star Wars version of a screwdriver or something. Yeah, that would be really cool.
Okay, next up is Lobot from Cloud City, Orlando Security Head, and that would be really cool to have a 6-inch Lobot to go with Lando and his Bespin security guards.
Yeah, especially because of the ring, like electronic ring thing around his head. That would look really cool.
Okay, next up we have Dengar. And he's already been released, just a recent release from last year in 2018. So they could just do a repack on him because he's already an excellent figure.
Yeah, he is. Maybe you could do a few soft goods on it.
And then the last figure of the original vintage Empire Strikes Back figures is Han Solo Bespin outfit. So. And of course, that's another recent release from the Black Series line, so they could just do a repack of that one because that one is already an excellent figure too.
Maybe they could add a few more accessories, especially because the Han only came with one accessory. Maybe they could add probably like a toolbox to it.
Okay, that wraps up the first wave of the vintage cards, vintage figures, and that would give you some idea of what a 40th anniversary Empire Strikes Back figures would look like. I hope Hasbro steps up and does this.
Yes.
They do have a lot of stuff going on, so I don't know if they'll be, like I said in the beginning of the video, and I didn't finish that, I don't know if they will be able to do this or not, because they have the archive line going right now, and there's a wave 2 already announced, and I'm sure they'll have at least maybe 5 waves of those. I can't see it going past 5 maybe. But also recently announced there is, they have a new line coming out called Hyper, and those are going to be bigger figures, maybe 7-8 inches, and they're going to be at a higher price point. So they have that going on. And then of course this fall I'm sure we're going to be getting a lot of episode 9 figures starting to be released or on the schedule. So is there room for 40th anniversary Empire Strikes Back figures? Of course, this wouldn't hit until next year in 2020. So hopefully they can work it in and actually do a line of these. Would be really cool.
Maybe you guys might not agree with me about this. Maybe they could hold back wave 3 of the archive collection. That's I'm guessing it'll come out in 2020. Maybe even late this year.
Or they could go on and release them this year and get them out of the way, and then have 2020 for the Empire Strikes Back 40th anniversary line. So they could go on and release several waves of the archive line throughout this year, and then by the time like spring 2020 hits, when the actual 40th anniversary Empire Strikes Back is, they could start releasing these figures. Now, to finish up this video, I'm going to take a look at a couple of figures from wave 2 of the vintage line, and we're just going to say that these could be possibly like exclusives, since Hasbro likes to do a lot of exclusive. And the first one I'm going to pick is C-3PO with the removable limbs. I think that would be really cool to see a C-3PO in the 6-inch line with those like magnetically attached limbs that you could remove. And maybe he could come with a mesh sack that that you could attach to Chewbacca and have him,
like a separate Chewbacca.
Yeah. And the second figure I'm going to pick from Wave 2 that could be like a store exclusive or maybe a con exclusive would be Luke Skywalker in Hoth gear. That would be really cool to see.
Yeah, especially because they would add a lot of detail, like I said, with some other figures. Especially with Hoth Luke. Yeah, that would be cool. You could, especially because they did the Snowspeeder pilot one from Hoth. They could especially do the Hoth gear Luke. That would be really cool.
Yeah, you can't really do a 40th anniversary Empire Strikes Back line without a Hoth Luke Skywalker. So you definitely have to include him in there somehow. I'm hoping that we get a lot of discussion on this video. Please comment below and tell us what you think. I'm sure Anybody that's a Star Wars fan would love to see an Empire Strikes Back 40th anniversary line.
Tell us if you want to see
just like
one.
us.
Yeah, tell us if you want to see one, or if you just want them to move on and not do one. But that would just be a big deal.
Yeah, what figures would you like to see?
Yeah.
Now, one of the figures that's not listed here, and it was a mail-in exclusive, is Boba Fett. And I don't think they could do an Empire Strikes Back line without Boba Fett, so they would have to do Boba Fett.
They have to include a bounty hunter, because the bounty hunters from Empire Strikes Back were one of the main things. Everyone loved the bounty hunters, like Bosk's bounty. He said in one of his videos, once he saw Bosk, he was into it. That was his favorite character.
All right, now tell us what you think. Would you like to see a 40th anniversary line of Empire Strikes Back figures? And if so, would you like to see the complete first wave, which is 20 figures that we just went through? Or would you just like to see a special display set or just a limited release? I don't know if 20 figures is quite a bit to release, but they could release them all through 2020 in different waves. So I think Hasbro could do it. But I think it would just be really cool. And given the success and everything over the 40th anniversary Star Wars figures, I think it would be a no-brainer. But you know, now that I think about it, Hasbro has a lot of stuff going on, a lot of different lines coming out, and also the Star Wars section in stores has just been shrinking. I mean, now Walmart has done their post-holiday reset, and the Star Wars section is only about 2 foot wide. So you got a couple pegs of Black Series figures, vintage collection figures, and then you got several pegs of the Galaxies of Adventure figures, and the Resistance figures, and that's about it. You got one vehicle there at Walmart, which is the vintage collection TIE Fighter.
Oh, yeah,
But that's about it. So, okay, leave us a comment. Tell us what you think. Would you like to see some 40th anniversary Empire Strikes Back figures coming up next year? And also, what would you like to see? Would you like to see a full line of them? Would you like to see just a limited release of a few figures here and there? I would like to see them do the full first wave of the figures with a few add-ins for exclusives and stuff. So that wraps up this video. Please leave us a comment, like this video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Alex, take us out.
May the Force be with you always.